Hi, everybody. I'm Sharon Spurlock. I'm the Senior Director of Family Support here at the St. Louis Arc, and welcome to our weekly Family Support Q&A. This week we have a very special guest, Jackie Zancanata from Champ Assistance Dogs, and she's brought her dog Echo in too. So we're going to get to meet Echo during the course of our presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Zancanata. I am the Director of Education at Champ Assistance Dogs, and we are a local nonprofit, and we train and place assistance dogs so that our clients can live more independently. And I am going to tell you a little bit more about that here with a presentation. So Champ Assistance Dogs stands for Canine Helpers Allow More Possibilities. And as I mentioned, our goal is to train assistance dogs to enhance life skills and promote companionship for our dogs as well as our clients. So we have 4 programs at Champ. We have our assistance dog program, we have our prison program, our therapy dog program, and our education dog program. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about each one of these. And after we talk about the assistance dogs and the prison program, I'm going to stop for just a few questions to see if anybody has questions so far. So that might be a great time after we talk about that to see what you have. So, as I mentioned, we train and place assistance dogs so that our clients can live more independently. We train service dogs, public access service dogs. Those are the ones that are out in the community, and per ADA, they have their legal rights to be out in public. We also train home service dogs. They do all the same things that our public access service dogs do. They just do it in a home setting. So maybe someone doesn't need assistance going to the store, but they may need help at home because they may be staying at home by themselves. As you know, maybe someone else that they live with goes to work every day, so they may need help just in the home setting. We also have facility dogs. We're placed in courthouses, advocacy centers, schools, and we recently placed one in a nursing school, which is really exciting. We also have home companion dogs. These, a lot of times, we place with children, and those are more just companions for a home. They're not necessarily service dogs. They're not doing skills, but maybe they just provide that extra companionship that's needed inside of the home. So, what do some of our assistance dogs do for their partners? They do things like open and close doors, turning on and off light switches, bringing something maybe from the refrigerator or from the pantry, removing clothes and shoes. Sometimes they provide counterbalance, maybe. They wear a special harness for that. They pick up items that are dropped. They can retrieve items by name, carrying items in a book bag or a bag. We also use them a lot to augment physical therapy. That's something that both our therapy dogs and service dogs do, which is super cool. And I think one of the most important is enhancing the social relations and improving self-esteem. When our clients get one of our dogs, and it's just this sense of, this is my dog who relies on me, and I am going to care for him because he does so much for me. It's just this special bond that they have together, and that's really hard to even put into words, but I think that's one of the most important, personally. So, training for our puppies. We call all of our puppies service dogs in training. In this picture, that's my service dog in training, Lakey. She's 2 now. She may make an appearance, I don't know. It takes about 2 to 3 years for us to train our dogs, and we start when they're 8 weeks old. And most of the training that happens when they're young is socialization. So we try to get them exposed to as many things as we possibly can while they're young, so that as they get older, they're comfortable and confident in different situations. Obviously, we also work on a lot of skills. Some people say that they're tricks, but they're really skills. And so they train every single day, often multiple times a day, inside of the puppy raiser's home. And then we also go into our office at least once a week, sometimes more than that. And we have 2 trainers, and they help us, puppy raisers, train our dogs and work on those skills, um, so that we continue working at home, at the office, so that the puppies are really engrossed in that. That's the only life they know, is kind of that working life. However, they still do have fun things, I promise. They still get to be regular dogs. Okay, our prison program, we train, as I mentioned, our dogs, our puppy raisers train them in the home. We also train them in our office. We also use a women's correctional facility in Greenville, Illinois, and our dogs visit prison and they train there. We have nonviolent women offenders train our dogs. They kind of really focus on skills in an intense time period, I'm going to say. Basically, it's a lot of practice. They're engrossed in that training from sun up to sundown, kind of. So when they're here in a puppy raiser's home, they get to do other things like, play in the backyard, and they might only train once a day. But in prison, that's kind of all that they do. So they train day in and day out. So it's kind of an intensive time for them, but then they come out and then they get to get a decompression time and just to be puppies. And then they kind of go back and forth in and out of prison. And so that just really helps them to sharpen some of those skills in a short amount of time. Placement. How do we place our dogs? We have an application. We have an interview process. We have a medical recommendation requirement for our dogs. We do place our dogs free of charge. So we do not ask our clients to pay for our dogs. And the typical cost is about $35,000. This cost covers so many things that maybe you might not cover for your normal pet. So they get their hips checked, they get their elbows checked, their eyes checked. They get a lot of preventative type screening tests that we might not do on our normal pet dogs. But we want to make sure that these dogs are healthy and that they can work as long as possible. And so we want to make sure that they are physically healthy enough to do that. So that's kind of why we do all of that preventative testing. And that's just in addition to the normal cost for having pets. I think everyone knows that that can be costly. So you can see in this picture here that that's one of the support harnesses that is an option if you needed that counterbalance dog. So that's kind of what that would look like on a dog. So one thing that's super special about us at Champ in particular is that we continue our relationship with the client and the dog throughout the lifetime of the dog and even beyond oftentimes. Once you're in Champ, you're part of our family. And when you get your dog, you may be able to do certain things and you and your dog may be working together in a certain way. And as time goes on, maybe something progresses and now you're not able to use, for example, both of your arms equally. Maybe now you really just need the dog to only work on one side of your body. So we make sure that you and the dog can continue to work together, and maybe we'll bring the trainer back in and the trainer will help navigate that process as far as how can we get the dog to do exactly what you as the client need them to do, so that you guys can both keep working together simultaneously and both be benefiting from your working relationship. And so I, like to say, we don't just give you the dog and say, hope it all works out for you. We make sure that you guys are going to have this really tight bond and that you're both benefiting from having each other in your lives. So, you can see 2 wonderful examples there. They are wonderful dogs and still both of them working today. So, okay. If we want to pause and see if there are any questions related to the service dog piece before we get into the therapy dog piece, that's kind of a whole nother section of working dogs. And so if we want to pause and see before we go on and do that section and see if we have any questions.
Oh, we have a lively audience, Jackie.
Oh,
So quite a
good.
few
Okay, good.
questions. There's a
Great.
couple of logistical questions that were initially asked just about when you're training a dog to do those physical things. Do you have to go in and make adaptations with the door? Does the light switch need to be lowered? What kind of things need to happen inside a house for a dog to be successful?
Yes, great question. First thing is we have them change their doorknobs so that they're, and I don't have an example, but it's just the bar doorknob, that just the bar where you pull down, and that way we hook a carabiner on there, and then it has a rope, and that's what the dog uses to open the door. And so as far as, well, you can see Echo here. As far as light switches go, we, most of the time, people tend to just use automatic lights in their home nowadays. However, if they don't have automatic lights, it's actually a long, I should use this arm. It's a long dowel rod, and at the bottom it just has a small piece of wood, and that's what the dog uses with his nose to push up and down on the light switch to turn that on and off. But so any door that needs to be open, we put that carabiner and the rope with a knot at the end. Sometimes it has a tennis ball at the end if the dog really likes tennis balls.
So you guys go in and do some home adjustments before the dog is placed then?
Yes. We
Wonderful.
actually do several training visits, and we will bring in an education dog. Even once the house is ready to go, we bring in that education dog so that the dog and the client can practice working together. Because like I tell kids, asking your mom to pick up your laundry is much different than asking your dog to pick it up. So it needs to be practiced by everyone. So.
Okay, fair enough. And then there was a couple of questions about the puppy raisers. Who can be a puppy raiser? Is that like a foster parents where you raise them and then share them back with somebody who needs the dog?
Yeah, it's basically like fostering. So you will have the dog inside your home for anywhere between, birth-ish to 2 to 3 years old. So depending on the dog and the trajectory of the dog and their path, you may have them in any time period between that. And we can take even some people who are just like, hey, I'd love to be a vacation puppy raiser, where when the normal puppy raisers are out of town, they just need somewhere to go. We have people that just do that, or people who just say, hey, I only want them when they're babies. So we can really accommodate any of that, because we just need people to help out. And yes, they will stay with you, and then yes, they will go and live with a client once they're placed. And yes, it is sad, but it is so it's so life-changing for not only these clients, but also for the people who are raising the puppies. I am raising my very first puppy from start to finish, and it has changed not only our lives here at my house, but also mine. I've learned a lot about myself, about my training abilities. I think we all have learned something, and it's been an amazing experience. So yeah.
I think that there's a lot of reward to get, even though it would be hard to part with the dog. One other logistical question, because you do maintain that relationship, which is pretty cool, people change over time. So being able to come back in and tweak a service is so critical. How far out can you place a dog? Do you stay within a certain county, or what's your parameters?
Yeah. So, and those have kind of been a little bit, we've kind of expanded that in the last several years, especially with COVID and with, we've been placing more facility dogs, and they don't need quite as many updates and things like that. And so, anywhere really within the St. Louis, Illinois metropolitan area is where we focus. So, I kind of like to just say within an hour's drive. So just to kind of narrow her down.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably is. Do you go across the river to Illinois as well, or just?
Yes.
Okay, nice. We did have a pre-submitted question. I think this might be the time to ask about it. If somebody is deaf or hard of hearing, are there skills that you teach the dog to be of assistance to that person?
So per ADA, there's 3 types of assistance dogs. There's hearing dogs for people with hearing impairments, guide dogs for people with visual impairments, and then service dogs. And we train in that service dog category. We don't have the background to train either visual dogs or hearing dogs, guide dogs or hearing dogs, but that obviously exists, just not in our realm of what we are capable of doing as far as everybody kind of sticks to what they're good at, and we just really stick to that service dog. We really help with more physical tasks.
Okay, fantastic. Well,
Mhm.
you may have already answered that, but does that also apply to seizure detection? I know that they've
Correct.
really been developing a lot of opportunities. So that would be a different agency that might have that type of a dog.
Yes.
Okay.
And that does fall in the service dog category. We just at Champ just don't specialize in that.
Okay. That's excellent. Thank you. I think it's smart when you can take what you're really good at and build on that. So yeah,
Hmm.
there's a lot of need for a lot of folks. So the other question was really about your funding, which you may cover later in the presentation. So after you said how much it costs to raise a dog, somebody immediately jumped in and said, well, how are you paying for that? So you can answer it now, or you can say, we'll cover that later, and then that's it.
I will answer it now. Just so I don't forget. We actually just had our largest fundraiser over the weekend, which was a gala event. We are totally raised on individual donations. We don't have any corporate sponsors that donate things or puppies or anything like that. Occasionally we do get puppies donated, but all of our funding comes from individual donations through either fundraisers or just donations. So we do have a few fundraisers per year. Like I mentioned, we just had our largest one over the weekend, which was wonderful. And we do other kind of small ones throughout the year. So we're going to talk about therapy dogs. And it the way I like to describe it to people is service dogs are trained to help one individual. So service dogs are trained to help one person. It's a one-on-one connection. Therapy dogs are trained to help a group of people, a community. They're not trained for one specific person. They're trained for the general population of people. So that's just a great way, I think, for people to understand the difference kind of between the two of them. As I mentioned, therapy dogs are trained to help a group of people. So they need to be invited to go places. That's the biggest difference. Is service dogs per the ADA are allowed to be with their person, and they don't need to be invited. If I bring my service dog into Target, I do not have to get assigned permission for me to bring him in there. However, if I have a therapy dog, we need to be invited to go there. So they do not have the same legal rights that service dogs do. They are owned pets. We go mostly to schools, nursing homes, hospitals, special events, universities. We even go to wakes or funerals, things like that. Their main job is to just provide comfort, joy, support, things like that to people out in the community. We do a temperament evaluation on the dogs. We want to see how they are in different situations. I like to use the example. This is in this picture, the chocolate Labradoodle is my previous therapy dog, Daphne. She's since passed away, but we were at a nursing home and the sprinklers went off and it was crazy, and she did not care less. She enjoyed it, I think. But so you want to make sure that our dogs are comfortable in different situations. You never know when you're out what could possibly happen. And so that's why we do that temperament evaluation. Then we have a 12-week course, and this helps the dog and the handler learn how to interact with people in the community. If you're at a hospital, you need to learn how to maneuver your dog around hospital equipment or wheelchairs or things like that, that they might not have had exposure to previously. So we don't have any breeder size restrictions on our dogs. We've had literally almost every single breed. My current therapy dog is a Beagle Basset Hound mix named Walter, and he's too lazy to be here, so he's sleeping upstairs. He's 10, and so he's semi-retired, and so we don't make him do anything he doesn't want to do, so he's snoozing. But so no breeder size restriction on them. We do like them to be between 2 and 10 to start, because we want kind of that puppy craziness to be over, and we want to really know what their personality is like. And then we don't want them to be too old when they start, so that they're still happy to work and, not as many health issues. In a typical year, this is pre and post COVID, we're about at 35,000 children and adults for our therapy dogs teams. And this service is free to the community. All of our therapy dog teams are volunteers. So they're volunteering their time and their energy and their puppies to be out in the community, which is awesome. This is probably one of my favorite things that we do. That's how I started at Champ. And I can't tell you how many lives that my 2 therapy dogs alone have touched. I can't imagine all of the dogs we've ever had in our 26 years and how many lives that they've touched. So it's just, it's incredible. This is Walter, by the way. Our education program, you guys are witnessing. So primarily my job is mostly dealing with kids. I mostly go into schools and teach kids about service dogs, how they help people, how to behave around working animals, working dogs. And sometimes we talk about pet care. Sometimes we, get to do a demonstration where we get to show them what therapy dogs do and show them what service dogs do, which is really cool. We also do presentations to businesses who maybe might want some training for their employees on service dogs and what those rights are and what employees can and cannot question, things like that. Just for some confidence for those employees, especially places that might have a large amount or more frequent visits from service dogs, just for some additional help. We also hopefully in a post-COVID world are going to bring back this Mud Grease program. It's actually incredible. It's teaching social emotional learning through the therapy dog and the therapy dog journey. So it's a program put on by a nonprofit called North Shore Animal League, and they have created this program, and it's incredible. And it teaches kindness, compassion, and respect, things like that, which I think is incredible. Hopefully we start doing more of that. We'll see if we can get more schools on board. But here's some information too on how you can help. We obviously always take donations. We're always looking for volunteers, puppy raisers. We're looking for volunteers in our therapy dog program, in fundraising events. We're also going to be having a litter of puppies hopefully soon. So we will be looking for whelper helpers. We give 24 hours a day care for our puppies when they're born. So we're always looking for volunteers for that as well. You can follow us on social media. We're always, looking for that too. And our website, which was on there, sorry about that. You can see our website down here, our phone number, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And here is our website right here. You can find all sorts of information at the top here and other information that we have on here. There's some puppies. I wanted to just show this website as well. This is called Assistance Dogs International. We are certified through Assistance Dogs International. And this is an incredible resource if you are looking for an assistance dog. Maybe you're looking for a dog that is something we don't train for. You can search and look for a dog this way. You can also see different resources here, frequently asked questions, which I think is really great. Different terms, public access laws. This goes directly to the, did it come up? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry. Then it goes directly here to this ADA information. So questions about service dogs and this fact sheet about ADA service animals, I think is really awesome. So if you're looking for more information about it, this is the best way. I mean, this is the best place to find it. No questions asked. Sometimes if we at Champ have a question, this is where we go to find more information.
Well,
Okay.
that was a really great resource. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
We had a pre-submitted question that I'm not sure I really got the answer for, so I want to go back to it. And it was about the requirements for placement. Obviously you've got to have the medical justifications and something from the doctor, but are you looking for something from the person that's going to be responsible for the animal? Are there things in their physical environment that have to be in place? How do you make a decision about placement? Is it just a waiting list, and as soon as you get there, you get the animal?
Yes and no. So certain physical disabilities are things that we specialize in. We definitely tend to have people who use wheelchairs, walkers, things like that. But once you fill out the application, there's a process as far as what you need to do on your end. And there is a lot of work on your end, including that medical recommendation. We do the home visit. Dana Ruff, who is our client service manager, she's the one who really goes in. She will make sure that the environment is safe for a dog. We do ask that you have a fence because the dog, is going to need some space, of course, like all dogs do. And so there are definitely some requirements inside the home. We just want to make sure that it's safe. As far as all of the other things that the dog may need to do its job, we can help set all that up for you. So once that happens, once you get so far in the approval process, then we start going in for training visits. And that's where then you become a student, and then students learn about Champ. They learn about pet care, about how they're going to care for their pet, things like brushing their teeth and brushing their hair and learning about feeding their dog, because we really want the client to be responsible for caring for their service dog. We don't want the dog to become a burden for their caretaker, perhaps. And so we really promote the handler, the client becoming that caretaker for the dog. So that's kind of where what happens in that training process. But as far as other than the fence, as far as the physical things that the dog needs, that's pretty much it. So
Okay.
as long as it's a safe environment for the dog.
Makes sense that you're going to bring people in for some training too. So that's good
Yes.
clarification. How many dogs do you place a year, and is there a waiting list?
There is a waiting list, and a lot of the waiting list is dependent on the type of dog that you're looking for. If you're looking for a public access dog, those definitely are harder to come by, as far as not every dog is going to be a great public access service dog. So that may take longer on the waiting list than another dog. And so that, yes, it depends on what you're looking for, how long the waiting list is, which kind of dog. And what was the other question? I'm sorry. The first thing
Just
part of that.
how many dogs you
How
place a
many
year?
It depends. I'm going to say on average, we're about 5 or 6 dogs per year.
Okay.
We currently have 14 dogs in training, and we've got about 4 that are close to placement. And so that's exciting. One being the one that I have. So, but, so we are getting close to placement for several of them, which is exciting. But so it depends, obviously, on the year. Some years we have more than others. Just kind of depends on the dogs as well. So some we have to release from the program for various reasons, and so we might not everybody always makes it. through the program either. So
Okay. So it's nice that you can hit that many people in that larger therapy dog group who are really getting the benefit of the animals. I want to thank you. The day services here at the St. Louis Ark, we've many times had dogs come to visit. I know they've come to visit in some of our residential locations, and I think we volunteered at CHAMP for quite a while too, just to give dogs exposure to people with different types of mobility and gait. So it's really nice to be able to partner with an organization. I want to make sure that I answer the last two questions. We just got another question in. So somebody besides me was intrigued by the funeral home piece. I just wrote him a note, said, I want a therapy dog at my funeral. So are you like going out and letting it be known to funeral homes that you're available, or is that something really that a person would need to ask a funeral home, say, I want this at my funeral, can we work out the arrangements?
We don't have enough volunteers to be soliciting it yet. That'd be awesome. But yeah, so pretty much if someone approaches us and says, hey, we would love to have a therapy dog or some therapy dogs at this funeral. So far, we've really done it in more tragic event situations. You know, house fires, things like that. And especially when it's children.
Yeah.
That's really kind of where we've really been called in. And not that we haven't or wouldn't for any reason. We, you know.
No, but I can see that's a priority.
It's an extra, yes, kind of. Yeah. It's an extra that
never even thought of that. And it's just beautiful to think about how that could really impact somebody. And you spurred somebody else's curiosity when you said somebody doesn't make it to placement. You know, what happens then are they adopted by other people? How does that work out?
Yeah, great. We get that question a lot. So if we can keep them within our CHAMP family and find them another job, we like to do that. So for example, Echo here. Echo, come here. He's like, are you serious? Come here. Echo.
Nope, I'm not doing it.
That's because the little one got up, so he's scared. So Echo here was in our service dog program. He ended up by being released due to a bladder issue.
He's coming. Always thinking about it.
There he is. Come here. Lap. Not you. Lap. Come on. Come on. Come on. They want to see you. There he is.
Echo.
Oh, he doesn't want to do it now, but there he is. So he actually was released from our service dog program due to a bladder issue. And so, however, he makes a wonderful education dog. And so he lives with me and my family. He gets to go on presentations and show kids and adults about service dogs and show their skills, which he loves doing. And so if we're able to have them be an education dog, for example, we do that. If we think they would still make a great therapy dog, we do that as well. And so sometimes we might have a therapy dog handler who has lost a therapy dog and is looking for another one. And so we may adapt them out that way. And if we don't think any of those things are a possibility, we will adopt them out to the public. And so we will, and for the most part, they're wonderful dogs. They just may have either a health issue or they may have, you know, some confidence issues that might not make them, or they might be lazy. Sometimes that happens too. I mean, we all know labs. Sometimes they're just lazy. So they just might not have that work drive that we need them to have. And so we will adopt them out to the public.
Awesome. That is so cool to hear. Well, you know, the fact that I get paid to spend this time with you and talk about dogs in any capacity is wonderful for me. Echo, thank you for joining us today.
You are being shy.
Just his nose. He's like teasing us.
I know he is. Look.
Jackie, thank you so much for your time. It's been really fun to talk for this half hour. Everybody, I hope that you'll look into CHAMP and find out, you know, when you're in a situation where you think maybe a therapy dog would be important, this is a good resource to tap into. So thank you. And thank you again, Jackie.
No, thanks for having us.